everyone, welcome to a new video, and in today's video I would like to talk to you about palettes, eyeshadow palettes. I took the inspiration from Kaylee Beauty here on YouTube, and she does tons of videos about palettes, and I was like, I love eyeshadow palettes too. Perhaps I can do my own take on these things. So today's video is going to be about 4 eyeshadow palettes, and the reason why I would like to talk about these 4, and I'll show you which ones they are in a minute, the reason why I want to talk about these is because I think that if you're looking for like a warm, bronzy toned eyeshadow palette, that these 4 are a great selection to look into. Of course, you don't need to have all of them. I happen to have all of them, and I thought I could compare these 4. So we are going to be talking about Urban Decay Naked One, Too Faced chocolate, semi-sweet chocolate bar, the Lorac Pro 1, and the Balm's Nude Tude. So those are going to be the 4 that we will be discussing in this video, and I will try to talk to you about the pros and cons of each of these palettes, and to sort of, you know, depending on your needs, which palette might be the right one for you. So that's what we are going to be doing, so let's get into it. So first of all, I'd like to just talk to you about the palette in general and what I use them for. Then I would like to tell you a little bit about my favorite shades in each palette, and then I will also show you swatches as we go along. So that's the way I want to set up this video. So the Naked One, this was the first Urban Decay palette that really got everybody started on palettes. I don't think that before this came out there were really any good consumer palettes out there, and they really just stepped up the game. A lot of people say that the quality nowadays of Urban Decay palettes is a bit lacking compared to others, but I think that this type of quality is really great if you're a beginner in makeup. These aren't super duper pigmented, and most of the shades are very easy to work with. I find this doesn't have any of the crazy Urban Decay shimmers that tend to have a lot of fallout. That's another thing, that this palette only has 2 mattes right here, and that's pretty much it. So if you are a matte lover, this isn't the palette for you. What I use this palette for mostly is a brown, smoky, bronzy eye in the summertime, especially these shades right here. Those are the ones I like the most, and those are the ones I get the most use out of. These cooler shades at the top, I don't really use all that much, but I like this especially in the summertime, which is why I wanted to do this video right now. The Too Faced Chocolate Bar then, this palette also has a very warm scheme, but where the Urban Decay palette for me really does that bronzy, smoky eye, this is more of a natural look for me. As you can see, it has quite some warm tones in here, and also this highlight is quite warm toned. It has Peanut Butter. Peanut Butter is a great shade. It's a really nice shade for the crease, but this is definitely a little bit more natural, and you do get a little bit more cool tones that you can also very easily work into a look. The downside to Too Faced, I find, is the packaging. The magnet on this isn't very strong, which is why I actually dug my nail into the shadow when I once opened it, just lifting up the lid, and I dug my nail in one of the shadows. Other than that, this is of course scented. It has a cocoa scent. I don't like it. I do have to say I've had this for quite some time, and the scent is wearing down a little bit, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to use nowadays. But if you're very sensitive to smells, then this may not be the one for you. Thirdly, the Lorac Pro 1. The Lorac Pro 1 has, their selling point is that it has a full row of mattes and a full row of shimmer. So if you think that the Urban Decay Naked One has too few mattes for your taste, then definitely look into buying Lorac. It's a brand that's a little bit more difficult to get a hold of, especially if you're not in North America. But Nordstrom does carry this brand, and they ship internationally. A couple of my favorite shades here are Mauve. That's a great transition-y crease shade. But most of the shades right here at the top are a little bit too dark for me. I find that, for instance, the deep purple doesn't show up as a purple on me because I'm so fair-skinned. But I do really like these shades right here in the middle. I do have to say that these 2 shades at the bottom are just too similar for my taste. But it does have a couple of really good neutral and transition shades, and these shimmers at the bottom are absolutely gorgeous. And last but not least, the Balm's Nude Tude. And in here, we have also quite a warm tone selection that definitely runs a little bit darker than any of the other palettes here. It doesn't really have a good highlight shade, I have to say. You have this matte white right here, but it's too stark, even on my fair skin tone. It's just boom, white. So I like blending it with either the pink or the yellow right here and sort of custom blend my brow bone highlight. But it has a lot of nice warm toned shadows right here. I have some more mattes than some of the other palettes here, but again, they are very, very dark. This to me pretty much always turns out into a smoky eye, like a full-blown smoky eye. That's what this turns into for me. So the eye look that I'm wearing on my eyes today was actually created using all 4 of these palettes, and I tried to incorporate some of my favorite shades in this makeup look. So from this palette, I used Smog. This is my favorite sort of like shade to really like darken up the crease if I'm doing like a bronzy, smoky eye. This is a really nice shade to really get that effect. And then today I'm also wearing Sin in the inner corner. I'm not a really big fan of Virgin. It's a little bit too dark for me. I do really like Naked and Buck as crease shades as well. And one of my favorite shades in this palette is actually Toasted. It's really nice all over the lid. Then from the Too Faced Chocolate Bar Semi-Sweet, I am currently wearing the highlight shade in here, Coconut Cream. I find this is a really, really good highlight for a lighter skin tone. It's the best highlight I feel from all 4 of the palettes that I'm showing you today. And of course, I had to use Peanut Butter in the crease. It's probably the best shadow for creating a warm tone crease. If I use this palette on its own, then I really like using these 2 shades, as well as, where is it? Rum Raisin right here. And this palette, I think, does have the most versatility when it comes to any of the palettes that I'm showing you today. This can be like a very natural look, which is what I prefer to do with it. But you can definitely use this as well to smoke something out, because you do have a matte black. You've got some good darker brown shades as well. So this is a palette that I feel can do it all. From the Lorac Pro 1, I really love Garnet. That's, I think, one of the standout shades in this palette. Like I said, Mauve is one of my favorite shades as well. I use that today to actually blend out my crease. And I'm wearing light bronze all over the lid as like a bit of a shimmery shade right there. I don't really like the gold shade in here because it's a little bit orange for me. From the Balm's Nude Tude, I think that one of my favorite shades in here has to be Seductive, and that's what I'm wearing on my lower lash line today. And I've also gone into a little bit of Standoffish, which is my other favorite shade in this palette. And I use that to sort of like have a bit of a highlight underneath like the beginning of my lower lash line. That's something that I've been liking to do lately, and a shimmery pink is excellent for something like that. I also really like this shade Sexy. It's a very nice deep burgundy. Like I said, this palette gives me a very smoky look, and that is definitely a shade I go into. So when should you get these palettes? I already tapped a little bit into it when I was discussing these palettes, but I think that if you are a beginner in makeup, the Urban Decay Naked One is a great start, especially if you like your warm tones or if you want to touch upon browns and stuff, all that, because you do get some really nice neutral shades right here. It does have a lot of shimmer, so if that's not your cup of tea, then that's something you shouldn't look into. But what I find is that Urban Decay shadows are just the easiest to work with. It's because Urban Decay's shadows aren't too pigmented and you can actually build them up and blend them out very nicely. I feel that this is pretty much a foolproof way of getting into makeup. So if you're a beginner, I would recommend this one. If you're looking for a palette that can pretty much do it all, then I think that the Semi-Sweet is a really great option for you. I already said that I think that this is very versatile because you do get those very dark shades. You also get some very light shades. A lot of people don't like the, what's it called again? Blueberry Swirl and Pink Sparkle, but I actually really enjoy Pink Sparkle in the inner corners of my eyes to really give this like light sparkly look. I like it's got like, I like how this palette has 2 different golds, so you can pull it in with some more of the cooler shades as well, but it will also work with the warm shades, and this is definitely a little bit more warm toned. And it also has a really good shimmery inner corner highlight if you're looking for that. This shade right here, that's Nougat. This is a great shade for blending out the crease as well, so this has a lot of favorites in there. It's going to come as no surprise to you that I would recommend this palette if you're looking for a ton of mattes, because this simply gives you the most options. I do have to say that I think a lot of these mattes, the first, well, not the first 3, but these 3 lighter shades are very similar. To me, they don't really look distinct enough. The white, again, is a little bit too stark, so the only one I'm really using is Cream or Light Pink. Light Pink is a little bit too cool toned for me to really go with anything else here, so I feel that those ones aren't working too well, but Mauve is an excellent, excellent shade. That's a great one, and I also really like Pewter. And from this palette, I also really like Sable to sort of smoke it out. This palette is just great if you're looking for that selection of mattes and shimmers. This palette by The Balm I think is great if you have a slightly darker skin tone than I do. I think that this is very dark, very sultry, very smoky. I think if you're really into doing your like vintage makeup look, so if you're like doing 1920s, 1930s inspired makeup, then this is a great palette. I actually always use this, especially that burgundy shade, if I want to do a 1920s look. If you really want to go for that smoky, almost raccoon-like look, then this is a great palette. I think that for a party, for a special occasion, if you want to go for something darker, then this is the best one out there. So one thing I haven't touched upon yet is the cost of these. I think out of these, the Urban Decay one is the most expensive one. Right now, these retail for about 55 euros. So that's quite a bit of money to shell out on a palette, but I do have to say that you know, Urban Decay makes my favorite eyeshadows for a reason. The Too Faced chocolate bars are a little bit less expensive. I think this retails for about 49 euros or something. And you do get a lot more shades in this as well. So the Urban Decay gives you 12 shades and this has 16. The Lorac Pro palettes are around the 45 euro mark, I think. And these are very powdery as well. So I think that this is a formula that you have to, you know, really get used to. These have a lot of kickback when you stick a brush in. Plus, Lorac shadows also don't come with a lot of product in them. Because of the kickback, you tend to use up a lot more in one go than, for instance, with the Urban Decay. So I find that the quality of the shadows of Lorac is really great, but it's definitely a formula that you have to get used to. Last but not least, I think the Balm's Nude Tude or Nude Tude palette is the cheapest one here. I believe this retails for around 37 euros, but this really depends on where you get it, how much you pay for it. There are places where this retails for as much as 43. In here, you get 12 shades like the Urban Decay. Because of the pans being so small and not taking up a lot of space, this also doesn't have a lot of product. And also the Balm shadows do require a little bit more work for me in order to make sure that they go on nicely blended. This doesn't just blend itself like the Too Faced and the Urban Decay shadows for me. I hear people mentioning that, you know, there's differences in quality as to how long these shadows wear. However, I always use an eyeshadow primer underneath my eyeshadows, and with all 4 of these palettes, if I do my makeup at 7 o'clock in the morning, it still looks fairly okay by the time I get home around 7 o'clock at night. So I can get a full day of wear out of all of these palettes. For me, it's really about color selection, what the palette can do, and whether I'm really looking for instance, a lot of mattes, or whether I want to go for my bronzy browns, or whether I want a lot of versatility, or whether I want to go for something a little bit more smoky. So with that, we've come to the end of this video, and yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a recommendation for any future palette videos that you would like to see, because I'm very curious what you would like to try as well. And if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, because I make new videos every single Sunday. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!